Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Join us as we continue our discussion about tennis elbow. Hello everyone and welcome back to Advanced Studio Classroom. My name is Brandon and we are beginning day 2 of our health article. What's the title of our article, Albert?
It's Rehabilitating Tennis Elbow.
All right, and we also have Amanda back.
Hi, it's great to be back and just continuing to discuss this health subject.
Okay, and we learned a lot yesterday. Remind us of something important from yesterday, Albert.
What struck out to me yesterday was range of motion. You know how sometimes when you get a new gadget, you read through the manual, it's like, don't put this phone through like extreme temperatures. It operates best within this range. Well, you know what? Our bodies are kind of like that as well. We have limits. And one of the things is like your tendons have a range of motion where if you put too much or go over it, it kind of puts unneeded stress to it. And it will, in the long term, it will cause an injury.
Okay, and Amanda, something else from yesterday?
Well, yesterday we talked about what tennis elbow is and then also what are the signs and symptoms. And one of the signs and symptoms is that pain is located on the outside of your elbow, and sometimes that pain may radiate to your forearm and wrist area. And I think radiate is a really good word for our listeners. I mean, radiate, like Albert mentioned yesterday, can often, we think of like a heater that radiates heat out. And in our definition, it says to spread out in all directions from a central point. But oftentimes we don't associate it with pain. Now here we are talking about how the pain moves throughout your body. And so here the pain may radiate to your forearm and wrist area. Okay. It's a good thing to just remember. Perhaps some of our listeners are feeling that pain right now in their elbow, and perhaps this is what the issue is.
All right. And if you were unable to join us yesterday and you're wondering what tennis elbow is exactly, we learned right there at the beginning on page 42 that tennis elbow is inflammation of the tendons on the outside of your elbow. And so there's pain there in that area of the elbow. And you have to be careful not to, do certain tasks or repetitive tasks that may cause that and, or irritate it even if you do have tennis elbow. And so those are some things that we learned about yesterday. We also discussed the do's and don'ts concerning how to prevent it. So I encourage you to go back and read that if you were not able to join us yesterday. But today we are continuing our discussion, and we're going to be talking about how to manage your pain if you have tennis elbow, and we're going to start off talking about daily living. So if you have your magazine, please open it up to page 43, and we'll have our first reading for today.
Daily living. Some examples of activities of daily living, ADL modification, include driving. Hold the steering wheel at the 4 and 8 o'clock positions, not the 2 and 10 positions. Ideally, a small pillow support under the elbow would be great. Exercise. Appropriate cardio exercises, e.g. brisk walking, jogging, swimming, and muscle strengthening are not only part of the treatment, but they also help to prevent tennis elbow.
Okay, so we are talking about daily living, and we have this phrase here, activities of daily living. It's referred to as ADL. Can you give us more information about that, Amanda?
Well, these are things that you're able to do on a daily basis, usually in order to take care of yourself. So things that you think about, what you do daily, you eat, you dress yourself, you bathe, Hopefully you brush your teeth. These are activities
I forgot today. Oh, no.
There you go. It's not daily living for you. But these generally are things that you do every day as part of your daily life. And so when we're talking about rehabilitation, therapists use they call it ADL, to determine whether or not you can live independently.
Right. So that's the technical definition of it. But here, we're not really trying to determine if someone can, live by themselves.
Right.
But it's still in that general line of thought.
Right. The therapist can still decide, depending on your ability to do some activities of daily living, how well you are rehabilitating.
Okay. And then we are modifying this, right? It says activities of daily living modification. So these are some changes that you may need to make. Maybe so you won't get tennis elbow, hopefully, right?
Right. And modification is something, you change something usually to improve it. Usually something that people like to modify is their cars. They want to make it go faster, so they change the engine or the exhaust and tune it so it can accelerate.
All right, and we are talking about driving. That is something we need to focus on. How we drive, how we hold the steering wheel.
Yeah, well, apparently we usually hold it we sometimes hold it at a 2 to 10 position. Now, what we're talking about here is the way a clock is, okay? So a clock, you have the 12 o'clock at the top and you have the 6 at the bottom, etc., the numbers around the clock. And so oftentimes when a driving instructor is teaching someone to drive, they will tell the person to hold their hands either at the 2 and 10, where the 2 o'clock is and the 10 o'clock is, and they call that the 2 and 10 position. Now, for this modification, we're being told that you should hold the steering wheel at 4 and 8. This allows the elbow not to be strained so much.
Okay. I didn't know that, but now I do. I learned something new.
Well, that's something, I don't know. I remember taking my driving test, and at least in California, one of the rules or the requirements is the proper position to where to place your hands on the steering wheel, because apparently some scientists or researchers have figured out that was safer. In case,
yes, right. I've heard about the 2 and 10, but I didn't know to hold it at the 4 and 8 would help in this area. So also you can have a small pillow, right, to support under the elbow. And have you ever done that?
I haven't needed to do that before. No, I haven't actually felt any pain in my elbow before.
Right, but I really like this because you can apply to other injuries, and you can just take a look at what you do on a daily basis and maybe re-examine, problem solve that, maybe I have an injury caused by this. Maybe there's a different way I can approach it and just change it a little and prevent it from acting up in the future.
Right, and I think this is also part of the prevention. We talked about yesterday how to prevent it, and this is, I believe, also a continuation of that. So maybe you don't even have the pain yet. And so that is something that you can think about doing. But not only driving is something to consider, but what about exercise, Amanda?
Right. Exercise is great for strengthening your body. And we're talking here what is appropriate for cardio exercises. Now, cardio has to do with your heart, cardiovascular. So anything that gets the blood circulating around your body. For example, brisk walking. Brisk means fast, so it's at a faster pace than you would normally walk. Or jogging, which is a slower run, or swimming. And so they are cardiovascular exercises that help you and strengthen your body. But there's also some muscle strengthening that you could do. Actually, it says that they are not only part of the treatment, but they also help to prevent tennis elbow. And that is because when you're strengthening your muscles, you're actually helping the muscles to support the joint.
Okay, very good. And so those are some things to think about. We often are reminded about the importance of exercising, right? And so make time for that. I know it's hard, but if you make it a habit, hopefully it can stick, right? Something I need to take note of as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about daily living. But what if you actually have tennis elbow? How can you manage your pain? Let's find out in our next reading.
How to treat tennis elbow. Manage your pain. The principle of PRICE is widely applied to relieve musculotendinous pain. protection. Activity modification. Try to modify the intensity, duration, and techniques of forearm activities. A tennis elbow brace can be useful in supporting your wrist extensors, protecting them from aggravating the tendon inflammation. Rest. Rest or alternate your arms whenever you feel muscle soreness. It's usually too late to rest your elbow if you wait until it starts hurting. A wrist brace can be used to keep your wrist in an optimal resting position, which is helpful to decrease the pressure on your wrist extensor tendons. Ice. An ice bag is always helpful when you are suffering acute inflammation, so make sure you use it within 6 hours of working or participating in an exercise program. Add a washcloth between your skin and the ice bag, because direct contact may cause frostbite or nerve damage. Compression. A compression sleeve provides decent support for your elbow. It is more practical for people who have recovered to a certain point, but not so much for those who are in the acute pain stage. Elevation. Elevation is critical when you have a swollen elbow, so make sure you elevate it above your heart. Also, sleep with a pillow to support your elbow.
Okay, if you are in pain, we have some tips for you, especially when it comes to tennis elbow at least. How to treat tennis elbow, manage your pain. First, Amanda, we talk about this principle called PRICE.
Right, PRICE, and that just stands for the way you can look after the pain or manage the pain that you have with your tennis elbow. It's widely applied to relieve this musculotendinous pain, which means musculotendinous just means the muscle and tendon joined together, so pain in your muscles and tendons. So you can use this principle to relieve that pain.
That's right. So PRICE is used mainly with sports injuries, right?
Right.
So this is considered a sports injury, although most people who suffer from it, it's not a result of a sport.
Correct. It's a result of overuse of that joint.
But you can nevertheless use this principle. It is called PRICE, and the P stands for protection. And so let's learn about that, Albert. What do we learn first under the heading protection?
Right, so activity modification, try to modify the intensity, duration, and techniques of forearm activities. So if you're doing something, again, like painting or repetitive motion, try to change it up a little bit.
Yes, that's right. Make sure you're using the proper techniques. You're not using one arm too long or too often. So that's something to think about. And I think our body kind of gives us some clues, right? If we feel some pain, maybe we can switch things up or take a break.
Take a break, yeah. Because, we just said that it's due to overuse of the joint. So the thing is to take breaks throughout so that you're not overusing it.
Also, you can use a tennis elbow brace, and you see a photo of that there, just to the left of the protection section. And it can be useful in supporting your wrist extensors, protecting them from aggravating the tendon inflammation. We talked about this inflammation yesterday, and of course that is the swelling and pain that you experience there on the outside part of the elbow. The tendons are inflamed, and so try using an elbow brace. But we kind of have a footnote there to this, and what is that about, Amanda?
We say that at the end of the article, we say that an elbow brace may worsen your symptoms if you have radial tunnel syndrome and tennis elbow at the same time. So an elbow brace works if you only have tennis elbow, but if you do have radial tunnel syndrome, then please don't use the elbow brace.
Yes, so that's something to be aware of. Okay, that's protection. That's the P part of PRICE. Next is rest, Albert.
Right, so rest or alternate your arms whenever you feel muscle soreness. I feel like this applies for a lot of injuries or when you're feeling under the weather, just rest up, take a break, recover. You'd be better for it. So it's usually too late to rest your elbow if you wait until it starts hurting.
Okay, so earlier we were talking about your body gives you signs that it's hurting. Well, here we learn you should actually take a break, rest before that happens. It may be too late, right?
Yeah, because if you're doing it after you feel the pain, then you're reacting to what's going on in your body. But we also want to be proactive to make sure we don't even have the pain in the first place. So be proactive and make sure you rest.
All right. Earlier we learned about an elbow brace. Now we talk about a wrist brace, and that can be used to keep your wrist in an optimal resting position.
Right, because your wrist can move a lot. It can be overused a lot. And so a wrist brace just helps position the wrist in a place that when we say optimal, it's at the most successful or the most advantage to be in a resting position.
Okay, and so when you use this brace, it helps to decrease the pressure on your wrist and extensor tendons. And so think about the kind of braces you may need if you are experiencing this pain. And of course, with all of this, and we will see this at the end, you have to check with your doctors, to see what really is going on and get advice from them. That's always, great to do, and that's what, we suggest that you do. But these are some general things you can consider. Okay, so we've got the P and the R. What about the I? What does the I stand for?
The I stands for ice. An ice bag is always helpful when you're suffering from acute inflammation, so just ice it. Conversely, I feel like a heat pad is really helpful for a lot of things as well.
Maybe. I don't know if it's helpful for this or not. Again, check with your doctor to see what helps for your particular situation. They use the word acute there, and we're talking about pain. So an acute pain or an illness is one that quickly becomes very severe.
Right. Compared to chronic. Chronic is where it's more constant. It could be not as intense in pain, but it will be continual.
Okay, so think about using an ice bag. Make sure you use it within 6 hours of working or participating in an exercise program. Timing is important, isn't it?
It is important. And so this will help alleviate your muscles and the pain in your tendons as well. But there is a small tip that we have, because when you're putting an ice bag directly on your skin, actually that can cause frostbite or nerve damage. So please use a towel, whether it's a hand towel or a washcloth, and put that between your skin and the ice bag so that you do not have frostbite and do not cause any nerve damage.
Okay, when I hear the word frostbite, Albert, I usually think of being, in a very cold place, a cold climate, and it's maybe snowing outside or the temperature is very low, it's cold. So you might get frostbite. What is frostbite?
Well, frostbite is usually when the skin and muscles have been damaged beyond repair due to severe coldness. Right. So like you said, usually maybe you're stuck in the wild and it's snowing. But here, it can even be caused by ice.
Right. So that's something to think about and be careful of. You don't always think about that when you're just adding ice to your skin, to your body. Okay, well, that's the I. So we have the P-R-I, and next is C for compression, and we're talking about a compression sleeve. You see a photo of it there to the right. What is that, Amanda?
Well, a compression sleeve, basically, it compresses the skin and the muscle, so it causes a smaller space for it to operate. It pushes on it, and therefore it helps support your elbow. And we learned that it is more practical for people who have recovered to a certain point. So already you would have had some recovery and possibly alleviated the pain somewhat before you introduce a compression sleeve.
All right, but if you are in the acute pain stage, in other words, that pain is very severe and you haven't really, started to recover very much, it may not help you as much, right, in that situation. Okay, so that's compression. Next is elevation. Albert?
So elevation is critical when you have a swollen elbow. We kind of mentioned this earlier, but so just make sure you elevate it above your heart. So if you're lying down, you can just put your arm, just raise it above your head, and it'll be above your heart. And this way, when you sleep, also use a pillow to support your elbow.
Okay, so we talked about using a pillow earlier when you're driving, but also here you can use it to support your elbow. here when you're sleeping.
This is also so that because when you have a swollen elbow, the circulation going on within your arm, you actually feel it very acutely. You feel the circulation going through the elbow. And so when you elevate it, then you won't feel the circulation so strongly, therefore you won't feel pain so strongly.
Okay, very good. All right, so that is price, but we do have some final thoughts. So stay with us, and we'll have our last reading now.
Final thoughts. In summary, tennis elbow can cause severe pain and functional loss of the affected arm. As long as we understand how to treat it, we should be able to recover without having surgery. Also, specific muscle strengthening exercises are crucial for tennis elbow rehabilitation. So please consult your physical or occupational therapist for more details.
Okay, well, we need to summarize everything. What do we start off here and under our final thoughts, Amanda?
Well, we learned that tennis elbow can cause severe pain and functional loss of the affected arm. Severe meaning very strong pain, and functional loss, which means we're not able to do the daily living movements that we may usually do.
Doesn't function normally, right?
Correct. So, earlier yesterday we talked about different occupations that may have tennis elbow as a result. So if you are one of those occupations and you do suffer from tennis elbow, it may stop you from actually carrying out your job.
Yes, and those are referred to as high-risk occupations. They include construction workers and even office workers. So that is something to remember. Well, we need to understand how to treat it. As long as we know how to treat it, we should be able to recover without having surgery. So that makes this article even more important. Gives us an understanding of what this is and how to treat it. Hopefully, again, get your doctor's advice. But if we know something about it and we know how to treat it, hopefully we can prevent surgery. What about muscle strengthening, specific muscle strengthening, Albert?
Well, it's really crucial for tennis elbow rehabilitation. So definitely keep that in mind, and I feel like that's a possible solution, and also a preventative method. Definitely also, like you mentioned before, you should consult your physical or occupational therapist for more details. I was just going through the principle of price, and it seems like it's an extensive and not easy list, of things that you should do. But I feel like it serves as a great reminder that, when you do push yourself beyond your limits, this is what you will have to do. It's a lot. It's a tedious task, right? But it's really painful. And so if anything, just listeners, should definitely take care of yourself so you don't have to manage the pain and use the price principle.
And I think, we've talked about the fact that tennis elbow actually comes from overusing your wrist and your forearm. Now, if you're overusing your wrist and your forearm, the pain is an indication that something's not right within your body. So even if you're starting to feel pain, then that's already telling you, hey, I need to get proactive about this. I need to do something about it. And so then you can straight away decide, okay, I need to change the way I do things, whether it's that modification we talked about of activities of your daily living, or so that you don't lose function within your wrist and your forearm, which will then, in some people's cases, cause a loss of income because of what they do as an occupation. So really, this really just means listen to your body. Your body will tell you something is wrong, and then respond to it and do something about it.
Right.
Right, I could totally imagine, people. I feel like sometimes in society we tell people just how do you say it? Just
buck up and handle it.
Walk it off, right? Yeah, just deal with the pain or something. But in the long run, this could affect your job. It can affect your mood, your interactions with other people. So it doesn't hurt to, just keep an open mind. Think about the possible advice and possibilities that you can how you can modify and change the things you do.
And there really is a lot of information out there, whether it's on the internet. I think that we are very lucky nowadays to have a lot of physical or occupational therapists around us that we can ask advice from, and they love to help people to be proactive with regard to these kinds of injuries. So really just become informed, right? Become knowledgeable about it.
And we have been talking about occupational therapists. If you're wondering exactly what that is, they just help with the rehabilitation process, okay, and help you walk through this. And actually, this article comes from an occupational therapist. His name is Andrew Tan, and he is an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist in Seattle, Washington. And actually, if you want to know more information, you can check out his blog, rehabforbetterlife.com, and he has the information in English and also in Chinese. And so it's very convenient for you if you want to check out that to get even more information.
Well, I just wanted to also point out that occupational therapists are very specific to what we talked about earlier, activities of daily living and modifying those. That's actually why they have that word occupational in front of therapist, because they really look at what you do every day. They actually ask you that, what do you do every day? And then they'll modify those activities to prevent pain and prevent injury or to rehabilitate your body. So they are quite specific when it comes to that.
Yeah, and also, Brandon, you mentioned websites. I feel like, our listeners should check out our website. For this article, I know the review skit features you.
Whoa.
Brandon, he's acting this out. It is hilarious. He had a lot of fun making it, and you guys will have a lot of fun watching it.
So check it out. Go into our website or scan the QR code at the top of page 42 and let us know your thoughts about this article or any of our articles. Just write to us at letters@studioclassroom.com. Also, you can go onto our website and give us your feedback. So please let us know what you think. And we hope that you have enjoyed today's article and all of the articles for the month of August. We hope you will join us again next time here on Advanced Studio Classroom. Until then, this is Brandon,
Amanda,
and Albert
saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.